IPMNation.com.
Good evening and welcome to All Natural Being here on IPMNation.com. Before we head on over to Facebook, I just want to stop and thank you all for joining me. 272nd episode we're about ready to kick off over here. So thank you so very much for joining us here on All Natural Being on IPM Nation. And of course, if you're listening on iHeartRadio or iTunes for the podcast, thank you so very much again. All right, let's get ready to let it rip. Thank you for joining us.
Post Studios in Columbus, Ohio, you're listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy. Brought to you by IPMNation.com. Get ready for the gong heard round the world.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brian Brawdy.
Thank you so very much, and welcome this evening to the number one rated show here on IPMNation.com, episode 272 of the Gong Heard Round the World. You're into All Natural Being. Broadcast as it happens here on IPMNation.com, Facebook on the fly, in case you're taking in the video, live from the Outpost, either way, here in Columbus, Ohio, with rebroadcast on iTunes and iHeartRadio. It's really an honor. Thank you very much for having us. Greetings wherever you are here in the Garden of the Mortals. Truly top of the day wherever you find yourself. Because remember, life, it's your labyrinth. Ups, downs, lefts, rights, pivots, swerves. It's your shot at running the table. That's why we're always putting your heart's highest priority top of the list. Placing your primal scream front and center in your life, reinstalling and reinstating, and I might add, not a moment too soon, reinstating the true wit and wisdom of your inner whisper, because it's time to reboot your robust, to find your ferocious, to outbrutal the brutal that is the cut and shuffle that fate deals you on a daily basis, and to bring your own bold, once and for all. But before we hit it this evening, I want to say hello to my friends here in the United States and Canada, Mexico, the UK, those in Ecuador, China, the Philippines, Brazil, India, Australia, Germany, Italy, France, Turkey, Japan, Singapore, Sweden, Israel, South Africa, Puerto Rico, Kenya, the Netherlands, to those joining us from all over the globe. It really is great to have you with us. And I truly am fired up today, like every day, to be driving your bandwagon, to be your biggest fan, to be avidly you. So let me ask you, are you tired of being institutionalized by the intentions of those around you, convicted by the constructs of your static quo, remanded to a prison of their rhetoric? Me too. Got to tell you, that's why it's time to mortal up. So what do you say? Let's go kick in some doors. And before we get to the feed this evening, you know, I mentioned earlier that I've had an absolute blast, if you will. I've had an absolute blast popping in and out, you know, wherever I can, taking in a little bit of the congressional hearings that have been going on. And boy, if you want a chance to see your public siphons in action, all you got to do is tune in and listen to this brain trust. Unbelievable. But in any event, I thought just maybe a little bit of history if it's been a while, or if you're brand new to the show and you're like, well, how does that work? How did he get going? You know, how did he turn around and get going on that? You know, I started All Natural Being, well, 272 episodes, most certainly a couple of years back before I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And it was a show basically to talk about allowing you to exercise your elbow room, your own definition of freedom, right? As long as it isn't injurious, physically injurious to another person, and we'll debate physically injurious here in just a bit, but as long as it isn't physically injurious to another person, it's always been my belief, and people go, well, you're even more libertarian than libertarians, and I always say, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, right? Because I believe in the human beings, not only their ability, not only their right, but their responsibility, their absolute need to put their heart's highest calling top of their list. Make it a priority in their life. So from way back when, I've come out 272 episodes. And again, even before that, like in any of my writings here on Facebook or Twitter and Instagram, wherever else I've put anything else up over the years, it's always been to stand against those that would water down the human wherewithal. Always. You know, and I've said before, whether it's the political class, the philosophic class, right? The priestly class, anything that will stand and propagate the hamstringing of a human mind, the chop blocking of a human cognition, anything that would stand in the way of you putting your heart's highest priority top of the list, I'm going to take an issue with. And then you just look at what happens on a day like today, and you watch, and you see some of these things going on in these hearings, and you go, wait a minute, you know what, politicians, is it set up? Politicians, you just got to be kidding me. And I have for years called them, instead of public servants, public siphons. Because you watch something like this and you realize just how self-serving, right? Telling you that they're altruistic, telling you that they're into it for the common good, telling you that they're taking a bullet for everyone else, and they're simply not. So I don't want to go all back into my libertarian days and coming out as I do against politicians. So just in a blanket sense, I'd like to focus on this evening anything that stands from keeping you from exercising your elbow room. Right? God-given, however you want to define that, the divine within you, anything that blocks you from exercising that elbow room. Because I think ultimately, life works best, our life works best, when we're manifesting our destiny, how we see fit. And I've said before, all you have to do is live in a housing co-op. And I've said countless times that big government doesn't live in Washington, D.C. Big government doesn't live in your state capital. Big government lives in little minds. And that when minds decide to tell you how you're going to react, how you're going to respond, set the laws so that it's stacked against you. You don't have to go very far for big government. It doesn't have to be white marble halls with pictures of themselves. I laughed. And I know all kinds of people. Let me say hello, Rook. Let me just say hello before I lose everybody, right? Good evening to John. Nice to see you. Thank you very much, sir. Good evening to David. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Dana, as always, hello. Please tell Gabriel we said hello as well. Janile, thank you so very much. Mike Warren, thank you so very much for joining us here at All Natural Being. And what we're talking about this evening is just maybe coming to an understanding that you realize that big government lives in little minds. And from time to time, are we our own big government? Do we have a list of all the things we need to do? Do we have a list of shoulds and a list of should nots? And are those things hampering us? Are those things hampering us? I'm with you, Mike. I like that idea. Let's do it. Say hello to Mike Warren from BioPro, not only from a bigwig at BioPro, one of the things that I rely on in terms of my recovery, but also a good friend. Mike, thank you so much. If you haven't had a chance to check out BioPro, Mike, maybe post the link here in the feed too. It's getbiopro.com. You learn a little bit learn a lot more than I'll be able to tell you about it, at least in this evening show. But one of the things that Mike and his dad created, one of the things that they're responsible for, is an instrumental part of what I do to try to battle back. Right? And I said today to a good friend of mine, "Hi, Laura." Well, yeah, I said hi, Laura, just now, but prior to that, hello to you as well, Laura. I said, one day if I ever decide to run for public office, I have a little bit of advantage. At least they've cracked my skull open, and they found that I have a brain. So any career politician, any public siphon that I might run against, well, I've got that going for me. At least we know I have some part of a brain. A part of it may have been removed, but, right, I got a shunt to prove it. At least we know I've got some gray matter. Hello, Alan. Thank you very much again. Men-pleasing words, no matter how important they may seem, doesn't always support the truth given to us by the blood shed for our rights before. Absolutely, Alan. Kelly Hill, thank you for joining us. Nice to see your face pop up as always. And today, it just made me realize, because it's easy to always be caught up in pointing the finger and going, oh, they're trying to corral me. Oh, they're trying to chop block me. Oh, they're trying to do whatever they can. But ultimately, if I raise my hand and go, I'm just as responsible. If I stand up, remember this, go be you. Don't forget, you can dial, maybe this is a little bit easier way. Well, I figured out I got a little set. 1-833-GO-BE-YOU. 1-833-462-3968 if you want to give us a call. 833-462-3968. Go-BE-YOU. It's a toll-free call. Go ahead. Jump in if you like. What we're talking about is how do we stand in defense of your elbow room? How do we stand against those who would water down the human wherewithal? How do we stand against those who look at your potential, literally just this side of infinity, and go, oh, I think I'll corral that. I think I'll control that. I'll try to cage that however I can. And all you got to do is pop by, out and about, running around. They got it on TVs. Check out some of these, especially today, the Joint Oversight Committee. It can be better than the Christmas special, right? It can be better than, right? You talk about made for programming TV. But the thing is, we elected these folks. That's what's fascinating to me. And I'm pretty sure I heard the guy's voice today. I never got to see his face on camera, but I'm pretty sure I heard the member of the House today that was the same member. I don't know if you've heard about this, but the same member that said he was against importing more of the military to Guam because of the size of the island. He was afraid that Guam would capsize. Now, I know you think I'm making this up. I know you think, if you get a chance, just Google Guam capsizing because of military and watch this video. I'm almost certain I heard that guy's voice today. Ready for this? He's on the Oversight Committee. So let's do this. I don't want to take a whole evening. As fun as it would be with some of these brainiacs. But the bottom line is, we elected them. So yes, I would love to be able to talk about these guys and girls, right? Don't want to mansplain these guys and girls all day long and go, you've got to be kidding me. But more importantly, for tonight's show, who's your Oversight Committee? Who is it that you've elected or you've appointed to be your Oversight Committee? Hank John. Thank you, David. You're absolutely right, brother. Thank you, David, very much. Hank Johnson, Democrat, Georgia. I'm almost certain, David, I heard his voice today coming in from off camera. Joanne, nice to see you. Thank you so very much. Okay, Mike, thank you. Check out BioPro Plus. Where are we? Clear by clicking alternativehealthconcepts.com/shop. Thank you very much. Mike, I appreciate it. Yes, David Ray. Hank Johnson. From the great state of Georgia. I love Georgia. I'm not making fun of Georgia, right? How could one? It's the home of Shepard Smith. Right? But here's a guy, right, on an oversight. If that isn't enough to drive you mashugana, an Oversight Committee, And he's afraid that the island of Guam is going to tip over if we pull in a few more tanks. I think, David, you would know better than I. At Kelly Hill, I watched it. Now, Kelly, let me ask you, good evening. Nice to see you, my dear friend. Did you watch the episode where he's worried about the island of Guam tipping over, or did you get a chance to see the circus that was the Joint Oversight Committee today? When you say I watched it, I just want to make sure I know what we're talking about. I refuse to watch. David said, I took a nap under a tree in the park instead. Good for you, David. Well, you know what it was? I just happened to catch it walking by, and it's like an accident you just can't look away from, right? And when you hear Hank's voice go, point of order, and I'm thinking, oh, please talk about Guam, please, right? But more importantly, I don't. So I just and even though you're thinking to yourself, oh wow. You're thinking to yourself, oh, I could sit under a tree. But this is so good, I'd have to pull it up on my phone. I have to tell you. But in any event, from Georgia, yes, he is. But more importantly, just so I don't turn this into a whole show about people that think islands can capsize if you put too much weight to them, let me ask you, who's on your oversight committee? Who sits in judgment of you putting your heart's highest priority top of your list? Good evening, Marcellus. Thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us here at All Natural Being. Don't forget, give us a call, 833, toll free, by the way. Go be you. 833-462-3968. Go be you. And I got to think of something back here. So I'm going to make like a little, it's not normal that I have to think to myself, oh, you need to sit on a telephone book. So I'll have to think of something to make me a little higher so that the Go Be You shirt can make it into the shot. I saw the circus, yes. So again, who's on your oversight committee? Who or what maybe do you put in charge of putting your heart's highest priority top of the list? How many trolls do you have ricocheting around in your own mind where you get to say, oh, no, this person, this thought, this ideology. Mike Morin says me, oh, be that were a true brother, Mike, if you're pulling it off, God love you. But on your oversight committee, who else is on that committee? And if you're not busy putting your heart's highest priority top of the list, let me ask you, do you ever get worn down from getting in your own way? I mean, think about the stress. We're talking all the time about stress. Think about the stress of constantly blocking your own happiness, constantly thwarting your own potential, constantly, and this is for Marcellus, constantly chop blocking your own cognitive abilities. Now, maybe we learned it when we were younger. I'll give you that. Maybe we learned it and we say, okay, great. Now here's what I've been taught to do all my life. But then is there something that we can unlearn? And how would we do that specifically? How could we go about unlearning this? At times, it almost seems like a need, although it really isn't. This need to have an oversight committee that keeps our heart on the back burner, that keeps our brains in the dustbin, that keeps the very best parts of ourself in the junk drawer. And all you have to do is watch these clowns on TV, public siphons, sorry. All you have to do is watch these crap weasels on TV and realize that they're not in it for you. And I guess I would ask, are you in it for you? Are you in it for you? Are you doing what you can to put your heart's highest priority top of the list? Every time I say primal scream, are you doing what you can to put your primal scream front and center in your persona, in your own life? People go, I don't know, primal scream. Yeah, you're wild at the core. You're all natural being. Because I think the more we realize, we talked a little bit about quantum mechanics last night. We talked a little bit about the nature of truly, there is no such thing as a void, right? At least a void that's devoid of absolutely everything. I know, I love that term, Mike, don't you? Crap weasels. And as I mentioned, we're going to be starting a segment called Crap Weasel Wednesdays, Right. And still keeping with Janelle, thank you very much. And for everyone else that has contributed low lifes making headlines, we're going to have a whole list of those as we get ready to go. My committee always encourages and supports one another. Alan, I think that's absolutely great. Good for you, brother. And I think that's what I'd love to be able to do here in the show, is have that same sense of commitment, Alan, to the people that join us each evening. And that's why I say I love riding shotgun. I love being your bodyguard. I love being the excuse if you go, you know what, I'm going to put my heart's highest priority on top of my list. And if anyone gives me any crap, I'm going to dial Brian. 833-GO-BU, 833-462-3968. We're discussing this evening who sits on your oversight committee. And are there times where you got to be your own best friend? Times that you have to be your own biggest fan. Now, I know everyone and their brother is going to jump up and go, oh, I can't have that. Like, we can't have you running around. That's just narcissistic. That's just hedonist. I love that word. Oh, you're a hedonist. Oh, be that were it true. Right? John says, wow, just thinking about Guam capsizing. Making the floor. I'm sure he has it off as aid and speechwriters. How did they let them say that stuff? I'm with you. I'm absolutely with you, John. Right? And it just shows you off the cuff. But more importantly, again, he's on the oversight committee. So let me ask you, you ever say something like that when it comes to your oversight committee where you go, you know, I got to be careful. The Guam could tip over. You ever say some things that in retrospect you look back and you go, yeah, I can't believe I didn't do that. Or I can't believe I did do that. I can't believe once again I put my heart in the back seat, put my brains in the dustbin. In the conversation earlier today, I said, well, we'd have a little bit of an excuse. Jack Purvis. I think you will like this guy. I don't know his name, Mike. So you can tell me a little bit about him sometime. 1-833-GO-BU. 1-833-462-3968. If you want to give us a call, we're just talking about oversight. And what it will take for you to ultimately let yourself up off the mat. What will it take for you to put your heart's highest priority top of the list? Right? What will it take for you to give yourself permission to exercise your elbow room as you see fit? No public siphons crafting laws to keep your potential in check. What would it take, in fact, for you to go be you? And maybe it's something that we go, I don't get to do it all the time, but from time to time, and that's when the 20-minute victories come in, what can we do for 1/72nd of our day? I am my biggest fan, but I do keep my ego in check. Good, Marcellus, I'm glad to hear it. And the benefit of keeping the ego in check, as I was talking to Henry about just last week, is that a healthy sense of self means a diminished sense of ego. And I think, was it Sarah that sent me a really cool picture that says, once you learn to control that sense of ego within you, that's when life opens up. Oh, thank you, Mike, very much. Good evening to Henry as well. Good evening to Jack. Nice to see you, Jack. Thank you for joining us here on All Natural Being. And we're just talking about today's Halloween party on Capitol Hill that was the Joint Oversight Committee. And more importantly, I guess, than that is who's on your oversight committee? Who's the chairman of your oversight committee? And you listen to him. Oh, point of order. Parliamentary point of order. Right? All these other things. Everyone's... Right? And you just go, okay. Right? Right? Yeah, this is not a drill. What are you going to do? Good evening to you as well, Henry. Please tell Rita we said hello. We're talking tonight about your oversight committee. Now, for some of us, and because Marcus brings it up, I think this is a great time to mention it, and Henry's on the thread with us as well. So maybe your oversight committee is run by your ego. Then you really do have a puppet government, right? It really is like watching this joint committee on Capitol Hill today. But what if your oversight committee has your absolute best interest in heart? Because you and I have to admit your ego doesn't. What if your oversight committee had as a rule to always put your heart's highest priority top of the list? In this particular moment in all of time, what if it meant for you to listen to that still small voice, for you to listen to that whisper? Because I think one of the biggest advances in science, and we're on the verge of it now, will come when everyone realizes that this particular moment in all of time has a depth and a breadth to it that we all ignore because we're busy from time to time. Thank you very much. Yes, I will. Yes, I'm pandering for shares. So yes, for every share, the prayer bowl gets a whack. Oh, I'm helpless. What are you going to do, right? But what if we were going to have an oversight committee and we take full advantage of the science that's bubbling up around us that says that this particular moment in all of time, not to be caught by a carrot at the end of the stick, not to wrap ourselves in goals, not, as Sandberg said, hope is an echo. It bids you yonder, yonder, yonder. But in this particular moment in all of time, what if that is true enlightenment, is to realize the moment that you're standing in right now has a breadth and a depth that will just blow you away. And instead of constantly running from A to B, we realize it's all about the A. It's all about where you are right now. What if your oversight committee said, yeah, enough, right? Enough mashugana. Enough static quo from the marketplace. Enough screaming and hollering. And again, if you didn't get to see it today, next to only, I guess, Paige, well, Lisa Page coming in to testify, that's going to be a rock and roll show. And I know, David, you're not going to watch, as you said, you'll be sitting out under a tree, but I'll let you know of all the high points. Ask that what it would take to finish their job, Alan says. Thank you, Alan. What if your oversight committee was hell-bent on making sure that your heart's highest priority is always at the top of your list? What if it was hell-bent on taking advantage of the latest cutting-edge, tip-of-the-spear science that says it's this particular moment in all of time? No future, no past, but this particular moment, the breadth and depth. I call it magnify the moment. But when we magnify the moment, I think we're going to soon realize that the universe dovetails, and that when we look at the moment as ingredients, and when we look at the now as ingredients, the universe goes, yeah, they get it. They're using the now the way it was intended, not some stepping stone, not some portal, not some trampoline to bounce to another moment, but this particular moment in all of time. They're going to use the ingredients at hand. I talk about, and there's probably a little bit of it left over from law enforcement, but I talk about the ability, right? You never know who your adversary is going to be. You never know in a martial arts situation. Chances are pretty good that your opponent's always going to be bigger, stronger, and faster than you are, right? Just, that's it. So all you can do, realizing that you're always going to be the underdog, is to work on your technique. So if we know we're always going to be the underdog, if we know that we're always going to be subject to the cut and shuffle of fate, that we have to eventually rise, we have to offer our counterpunch, and that's how we out-brutal the brutal. When we do it based on our technique, ultimately, then we have nothing to worry about. And what if that technique is the magnifying of this particular moment in all of time? What if everything you've ever needed, you've always had? It's always been with you. And the nice thing about this, as I said last evening, the nice thing about this is just take it for a test drive. 20 minutes, 1/72 of your day. Put your heart's highest priority top of your list. And the gratitude that bubbles up from the, quote, emptiness, from the nothing, the gratitude that bubbles up will blow you away. And then of what? If just in this moment, have you ever done this? Well, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at a bookstore one time, and I think I was looking for the book Flow by Csikszentmihalyi years ago. It's a true story. Honest to goodness. And I'm in a bookstore, and I'm looking around, trying to find this particular book. And, there's the shelf. So I back into it, And a book apparently is on the ladder, because it's like a used bookstore, not like the new ones where you go in and even though they're used books, they charge you damn near the same price as if they were brand new. But these were the old dusty ones, where they're just old books and you go in, you pay a couple dollars for, a book that was $30 when it came out, you pay a couple bucks. It was one of those stores. So it's books stacked floor to ceiling and, shelves and dust and just everything, right? Creaky wooden floors, if I remember. And at one point, I kind of like backed up so I could look at the shelf and try to kind of read the titles and see exactly what it was I was going to do. And I backed into it, and I go, oh, excuse me. I backed into a ladder. Honest to goodness, a book fell off the ladder. When I backed into it, book fell off, hit me in the shoulder. I turned around to pick up the book, bend over, pick up the book. It was the exact book I had been looking for. A paperback version, and I'm sure I still have it here somewhere, a paperback version of Csikszentmihalyi's Flow. Let's see if I can find it. I know it's in the library here somewhere. Right? And then you think, oh, well, Jung would call that synchronicity. The psychiatrist Carl Jung would call it synchronicity. Chance, serendipity, whatever it is you want to call it. And it was that particular moment in all of time that I realized that maybe that's the way the universe works, that it's always presenting you the ingredients that you need right now that will dovetail when you put your heart's highest priority top of your list. Henry says, the problem is we must see ourselves important enough to not be overrun by society. Both sides are carefully changing things. We are all being staggered. According to Alan. Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Henry. Yeah, when you talk about both sides, Alan, it doesn't, right? For me, the public siphons are public siphons. Henry's right to talk about not being overrun by society, not be overrun by the Meshuggah of the marketplace, not to be overrun by the society in your own mind, right? If you and I have decided, okay, we're going to live outside of the moment, we're going to be subject to binge thinking, we're going to have our oversight committee. I thought about it a lot this morning. What happens to a human mind? Not a lobster mind, not a hamster mind, not a butterfly mind, a human mind who surrenders its sense of self to the committee vote. How horrible must the day be where everyone and their brother, everyone and their sister gets a say in a human mind's sense of self? I think maybe that's what Henry means by being overrun by society. How painful must that be? You talk about suffering the slings and arrows. And I call it the pathology of the porous. The pathology of every single bit of vapid rhetoric from your critics. And they get to play you like a puppet. Well, maybe you and I reach the point where we go, you know what? Sarah, good evening. I was just talking about you not too long ago. Sarah, didn't you send me a picture that talked, and I just thanked you a little bit ago. If you get a chance, could you post it here in the thread, Sarah? A picture about surrendering of the ego? Really appreciate that. We're talking about oversight committees. What a fun show today was. Oh. But just as important, how about your oversight committee? What is it that you do? What are the votes that you allowed inside of your own head that keep you in check, that keep you chop-blocked, that keep you imprisoned, that keep you depressed, that keep you unhappy, that keep you sad? And what if, in this particular moment, in all of time, Mitzi, good evening as well. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining us here on All Natural Being. What if scientists are right, that everything goes down in this particular moment in all of time? You're looking for a wormhole? You're looking for transportation to another part of the universe? What if it happens right now beneath your feet? What if everything you've ever needed, you've always had? What if in an instant you could go, yeah, my oversight committee, I just fired them all? In terms of like hijackers in an airplane, terrorists hijacking a cockpit, taking over the cockpit. Well, what if you and I decided to take back our cognitive cockpits? No more, right? No more hijackers. We're not going to be derailed. We're not going to let someone else fly our plane into the ground. Henry says, we've been taught to be concerned with what others say and think, and that must change. Absolutely, Henry. Absolutely believe you, brother. Hi. Mitzi, nice to see you as well. And if we've been taught it, Henry, can we be untaught? Can we unteach ourselves? Because what kind of elbow room do you really have if everyone gets to vote on your elbow room? What kind of life do we have if an oversight committee is doing everything it can to keep your heart in check? Keep the wit and wisdom of your inner whisper in check. And maybe, we've said this before here, maybe misery loves company. Maybe that's their reason. But you get to the point where you just go, you know what? I don't give a damn about your reason. You go, I don't care what other people are going to say. Let them be vapid. Let ricochet around in their minds. But your oversight committee says enough. I'm going to tap into the enlightenment that's already mine. I'm going to tap into using this particular moment in all of time, this now. I'm going to magnify the moment and make the universe work for me. And fate wants you distracted. Mike says, it's no coincidence that we all tuned in to All Natural Being at this point in time. Thank you very much, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you, Michael, very much. Please tell your dad I said howdy. Alan asks, can you expect a small chicken from a large egg? Henry says, we absolutely can unlearn and relearn. I like that. And that's the part about believing in your all-natural being, that it's dynamic. It's not static. It's dynamic. In any particular moment, you can decide to jettison all the junk in your mind. You can decide to do away with binge thinking. You can decide in this particular moment in all of time to go be you. Not the you that the ego says, not the you that the committee vote gets the control, not the you that is the sock puppet, not the you that's busy worrying about everyone else's opinion and turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to your own heart. Not that you. The all-natural you, the wild at the core you. The you that allows you to rise to the occasion, to square your shoulders. And I know I've said this before, and so let me just repeat it again real quick. Well, let me repeat this again. 833-GO-BE-YOU. 833-462-3968 if you want to give us a call. Toll free. 833-GO-BE-YOU. But it also bears repeating. That from time to time when we're busy wanting to attack everyone else for holding us in check, that ultimately we're the ones that hold ourselves in check, that we have to be co-conspirators, that fate will do whatever it can to keep us distracted. Because it doesn't want you, your surroundings, the status quo doesn't want you to know that you can use this particular moment in all of time. You know, they want you to worry about, ooh, that speech was a trigger. Yeah, those words triggered something in me, and so now I feel outraged and offended and mortally wounded and all this other malarkey. But that ultimately we can reach a decision and say, no more. I will run my oversight committee with the thought of putting my heart's highest priority top of my list. And just as importantly is exercising my elbow room, giving the people around me the permission to exercise their own elbow room. No more dysfunctional attitudes. No more dysfunctional oversight committees. But you, in this particular moment, in all of time, giving yourself permission to exercise your elbow room and say, I'm going to put my heart's highest priority, top of my list. And for the critics and their spew, all the different people tell you, oh, you can't do that. You have all these other responsibilities. Oh, you've got a tribe, you've got a community, you've got a village, you got... We're not talking about being selfish 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're saying for every so often, 20-minute victory, 1/72nd of your day. Could you be your own biggest fan? Could you do just what the hell you wanted to do? Again, with the caveat, as long as it isn't physically injurious to someone else. I think it was Thomas Jefferson when he was working on the Declaration of Independence, our founders. It was like, look, save physical violence to someone else or to their property. You get to exercise your elbow. Now, he didn't say exercise your elbow room. I think I made that up, but you know what I'm saying. Save that. You're free to exercise your elbow room any way you want. So why are you worried about stepping on other people's feet? Especially, here's what's fascinating to me. People will go, like the new number better. You know what, Sarah? Thank you very much. We still saved 1-855-GUTLESS. Right, because I'm just nuts. I do love but more importantly now, the 1-833-GO-BU, 833-462-3968. Because I think the examples of gutless human behavior are just too much, right? But I like the idea of 833-GO-BU. So thank you, Sarah, very much. John says, my biggest block to exercising my elbow room is the fear from exercising my elbow room and be accosted by the powers that be for doing so. Yeah, well, I get that, John. So I think what you do is, you remember like Bill Murray in that movie, What About Bob? Remember the psychiatrist Richard Dreyfuss had the book called Baby Steps? Maybe we exercise it in baby steps. Maybe, John, from time to time, you and I have bought into this, that the powers that be are not going to be crazy about us exercising our elbow room. And maybe we become like an adjunct. We become a satellite office for the powers that be, and we let our ego threaten us with that very thing. Our ego says, oh, you don't want to be accosted by the powers that be. Oh, no, you don't want to mess with that. Well, what if our ego's the co-conspirator to the powers that be? I think about that a lot. 833-GO-BU, 833-462-3968. We're talking this evening about being your own oversight committee. We're talking about how public siphons, and can I just say this? I was talking to a good friend of mine today, and I talked about, everything had to stop. Everything had to stop. Because the president's plane landed at some airport in England. Right? Oh, we've got live footage of an airplane landing. It was all I could do to keep from going over to the local grocery store with a camera and go, I've got live footage of a person backing into a handicapped parking space. Just waiting for the door to open. Maybe I could get a couple guys pushing carts, right, to act like a military guard. I could get a couple guys pushing carts and go, hey, when they climb out of the car, could you just roll the shopping carts right back with them? And then I'll get footage of them going in the door, right? We've come to where the media covers a plane landing and wonder why we think these self-important crap weasels, right, on the oversight committees think that what they do is just all that important. An airplane landing on the ground. It wasn't even crashing. It was just landing. Now, before everyone says, don't be slamming, don't be slamming the president. I'm not slamming the president. I'm not, because I believe this for all presidents. People go, it was such an outrage. They met the Queen and they didn't genuflect. She didn't want to meet me. I think you should genuflect when you see yourself. I think you should be all over the idea of watching your own plane land, your own plane take off. But our public siphons and the media have scripted this perfectly, as Alan said before. Or at least the two sides scripted it perfectly. Where everyone, we've got to watch the doors opening. We're expecting to see, the president and the first lady any moment now. Oh, well, let me run and get a bowl of ice cream. This should be good. So maybe when it comes to your own oversight committee, today will be the day, tonight will be the night that you can fall asleep grateful for who you ultimately are. Go be you, not the small you, not the little ego-driven you. Not the you that's subject to an oversight committee of 400 different thoughts and opinions and voices, but the enlightened you, the all-natural you, the wild at the core you. And then I'll go over to Meyer tomorrow and get a video of a pickup truck, right, pulling up in the fire lane. Right? Call it breaking news. And I ask, how much of this have we done to ourselves? How much of paying all the pomp and circumstance that we pay to these public siphons? How about if we had a little bit of that pomp and circumstance and we paid it for you? You know, I told you about the T-shirt, right? The Go Be You, so I can get the 800 number in there, 833 Go Be You. But I'm going to have a little red hat done, and it's going to say, make humans great again. No more trolls. Make humans great again. As Alan says, so many people are in the gossip and judgment of others that they don't leave rest for their soul. Yeah, there's a busy world out there. I'll give you that, Alan. But when we get to the point where we're all, a friend of mine used to call it Twitter-pated. Even this is back even before the days of Twitter. We're all Twitter-pated because a politician's airplane is landing in some other country. Oh, don't forget, we've got live footage. And then they watch the damn plane for like a mile out. Oh, it's getting closer. It's getting closer. Yeah, we think gravity's going to take over any minute now. Oh, no, there it is. Wheels down. But people keep tuning in. All right, we're going to get ready to run. Thank you so very much for hanging out with us here this evening at All Natural Being. Thank you for everyone with all the comments. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, it's toll-free now. You're welcome to call in. I'm still learning a little bit about it, but I'm telling you, I'm having the time of my life. I'm having the time of a life riding shotgun for you. I'm having the time of my life being your biggest fan. I mean, again, my hat, make humans great again. Remembering that your potential is just this side of infinity, and stop buying into the baloney of the crap weasels that would have you think differently. Mitzi says, I worry that if I stop looking at the things that are happening now, then I will feel personally responsible for ignoring what I was seeing. If that makes sense, it's exhausting. But you know what? That's a great point. But sooner or later, Mitzi, I would think, like you, maybe, I've decided I'll say what I can, I'll do what I can, but more importantly, I need to lead by example. And I'll pay attention. And if I'm personally responsible, I'll accept that responsibility. But if I'm not, I'll do what I consider to be the polar opposite and hope that that example will cause people to go, it's an airplane. Oh, don't forget. Oh, let's get this. Marine One is taking off. Oh, right. Yeah, we got to get the press corps over there because you need a picture of us genuflecting to like an 80-year-old, right? Some queen. We need to bow. You want to bow to the reflection you have in your own mirror and be thankful for the abilities, the natural resources, the grit, the agility, the stamina that is you, and a potential just this side of infinity. Alan, thank you so very much. I really enjoyed hanging out with you, brother. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Why don't we do this again? We should try for a show tomorrow night. We're supposed to be going Sunday through Thursdays, but let me see if we can't pull off another show tomorrow evening, 8 o'clock, and then we'll be back for sure on Monday. Got a lot of cool things happening. To be honest with you, it's not so much that I'm dragging my feet. It's just I'm subjecting myself to the learning curve. So I'm getting a little bit better each and every time. So that's what I'm working on. But we'll have that. We're going to have some guests in the studio. studio. We've got all kinds of cool things beginning to happen. So thank you all so very much for joining me here at All Natural Being, and we will look to see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. In the meantime, if you're going to have an oversight committee, go be you.
IPMNation.com.